Before we dive into this visual journey, I invite you to join me with an open and curious mind. If you notice symbols, metaphors, or meanings that I don't mention, share them. Let's enrich this exploration together. No interpretation is ever final. Every glance, every intuition adds another spark of light to this timeless mystery. And if you're passionate about art, make sure to subscribe and keep exploring with me the hidden secrets behind humanity's greatest masterpieces. Bosch and the birth of a mystery. Hieronymus Bosch, known in Spanish as El Bosco, was one of the most extraordinary and visionary artists of the Renaissance. Born around 1450 in Humankind, a bustling city in the Netherlands, Bosch lived at the crossroads of the Middle Ages and the dawn of modern thought. His world was a tapestry woven of contradictions, a society steeped in Christian devotion, yet still haunted by medieval superstition, where theology mingled with astrology and faith often sought the help of magic. Amid this paradoxical atmosphere, Bosch created an art unlike anything seen before. He became a painter of visions, of dreams and nightmares, of the visible and the invisible. His brush captured the inner labyrinth of the human soul, exploring not only the divine, but also the grotesque and the absurd. To contemplate his paintings is to peer into the collective unconscious of his age, where angels and demons share the same stage. His most enigmatic and celebrated work, The Garden of Earthly Delights, stands as the sumph of his imagination, a triptych that encapsulates the moral, spiritual, and metaphysical journey of humankind. It is not simply a painting, it is a visual theology, an encyclopedia of desire and consequence. Through it, Bosch narrates the eternal story of humanity, the innocence of paradise, the intoxication of temptation, and the tragic fall into damnation. The viewer becomes a pilgrim, traveling from divine perfection to chaotic indulgence, and finally to the infernal abyss. Bosch's mastery lies not only in his technique, but in his intellect. He was deeply versed in Christian doctrine, yet also attuned to the esoteric philosophies of his time, alchemy, astrology, and hermetic symbolism. His art is a coded language of signs and metaphors, designed to be read by those who seek knowledge beyond the surface. Each creature, each fruit, each shimmering hue is a cipher for hidden truths. Nothing is arbitrary. The painting is a revelation disguised as a riddle. When the triptych is closed, we behold the earth on the third day of creation, a transparent orb suspended in the void, still untainted by sin or desire. Across its delicate surface glimmers the divine act of Genesis. At the top, Bosch inscribed a verse from Psalm 33. He spoke, and it came to be. He commanded, and it stood firm. This inscription is no mere ornament. It is the key to the mystery. It reminds us that everything within the panels, beauty, temptation, decay, is the unfolding of the divine word, and simultaneously, its distortion by human will. Thus begins Bosch's cosmic meditation, a vision of creation, corruption, and the fragile thread between salvation and ruin. The left panel of the Garden of Earthly Delights opens like the first breath of creation, a vision of a world still untouched by sin, suspended in the crystalline dawn of existence. The atmosphere is serene, radiant, and filled with an almost musical stillness. At the center of this tranquil Eden, Christ, depicted as the youthful image of God, presents Eve to Adam, newly awakened beneath the shade of the tree of life. This sacred gesture signifies the birth of humankind, the moment when the soul is joined with the physical world, when innocence first gazes upon itself. Around them unfolds a landscape of divine abundance. Rivers flow with impossible clarity, animals both real and imagined wander peacefully, and mountains rise like the bones of the earth reaching toward the heavens. Everything breathes with harmony, yet this harmony trembles, fragile as glass, aware of its impermanence. Bosch paints paradise not as a place of eternal perfection, but as a fleeting equilibrium before the storm of desire. It is here that Bosch begins his secret discourse in color. Pink, warm and luminous, embodies divine vitality, the energy of love and spiritual grace. Blue, serene yet deep, evokes the realm of the material, the weight of the earthly and the shadow of form. The interplay between these hues mirrors the human condition, spirit dwelling in matter, the divine imprisoned within the temporal. But as the eye moves across the panel, blue begins to dominate the landscape, whispering of an imbalance soon to come. Purity, once radiant, starts to dissolve into curiosity, and curiosity into temptation. To the right of Christ, a magnificent pink fountain rises, a tower-like structure, delicate and otherworldly. This is the fountain of life, a symbol of divine energy descending through the planes of creation. From its translucent waters, birds and beasts emerge, each representing the first emanations of consciousness. Amid this vitality, a dark owl hides within the fountain's depths, its eyes alert, almost knowing. The owl, ancient symbol of wisdom and secret knowledge, stands as the witness to awakening awareness. It sees what innocence cannot, the duality of good and evil, concealed within the same breath of life. Nearby, the tree of life extends its roots into the earth and its branches toward the sky, a cosmic axis linking heaven and matter. It represents divine order and the balance of creation. But look closer, and the serpent already coils around its trunk. Within perfection, corruption is latent. Within the promise of creation, the seed of destruction sleeps. Bosch invites the viewer to recognize this paradox, that even in Eden, the fall has already begun in spirit, if not yet in action. Thus, the left panel is not merely an image of paradise, it is the prelude to the great human tragedy. It depicts the instant before the first thought of separation, before desire fractures unity. Paradise for Bosch is not eternal. It is a breath between dream and awakening, a fragile balance between spirit and flesh, between the divine word and its echo in the human heart. As the triptych opens into its vast central panel, the world of divine harmony gives way to a carnival of flesh and color. The tranquil order of paradise has dissolved, replaced by a frenetic celebration of sensation. Humanity, newly freed from the garden's boundaries, revels in its autonomy. Naked men and women inhabit a landscape alive with impossible abundance. They bathe in pools of light, taste enormous fruits, glide through translucent spheres, and ride fantastic creatures with an innocence that borders on delirium. Everything is movement, rhythm, vibration, a world intoxicated with its own beauty. Yet beneath the luminous surface, Bosch reveals the deception. This is not the paradise of the soul, but the mirage of the senses. What first appears as joy becomes an allegory of distraction. Each gesture, each fruit, each shimmering reflection carries a moral undertone, a whisper of warning. Pleasure, Bosch tells us, is not evil in itself. It becomes corruption when it blinds the soul to its origin. The fruits that populate this landscape, cherries, strawberries, grapes, are emblems of ephemeral delight, the sweetness that vanishes the moment it is tasted. The crystal bubbles, fragile and luminous, symbolize the transient nature of all earthly joy. What glitters here is already breaking. Color, once a subtle language, now becomes the drama itself. The divine pink of paradise merges with the deep blue of matter, creating a spectrum of violets, tones that evoke the confusion between spirit and flesh, heaven and earth. Red bursts forth like an omen, passion unrestrained, energy without direction, the flame that consumes rather than enlightens. Even white, the color of purity, has lost its innocence. It glows with a strange, corrupted brilliance like light refracted through smoke. The human soul has become enamored of illusion. It dances within a dream, forgetting the source of its own light. At the heart of the panel, a great circular formation of nude figures turns endlessly, like a wheel. It is the wheel of life, the eternal cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. Humanity revolves around its own appetites, mistaking motion for progress. Around this human vortex, mythic creatures, unicorns, griffins, giant birds, winged fish, join the procession, symbolizing the wild imagination of the senses, ungoverned by reason. The garden has become a theater where instincts play at divinity. In another corner, a curious group of women, adorned in colors of black, white, and red, performs an enigmatic ritual. Their gestures echo the stages of spiritual alchemy: nigrido, blackness, the descent into desire; albedo, whiteness, purification through awareness; and rubedo, redness, the illumination of the soul through experience. Bosch hints that even in the midst of indulgence, transformation is possible. The path of error can lead back to truth if one awakens. Near the center, a mysterious hybrid figure captures the eye, a man enclosed within a pink, egg-like shell, his head that of an owl, balancing 5 cherries in his hands. He embodies temperance, the inner equilibrium that unites wisdom and pleasure. He is the universal man, Bosch's symbol of the microcosm, the human being who reconciles opposites, heaven and earth, instinct and intellect, creation and decay. In him, the painter offers a glimmer of hope, the possibility of harmony, even within chaos, and yet the scene is haunted by its own brilliance. The more vivid the colors, the more fragile they seem. The garden's beauty is a mirror that deceives. It invites us to lose ourselves in its splendor while quietly leading us toward the abyss. For Bosch, this central paradise is not an ode to desire, it is a warning written in light. When the soul yields entirely to sensation, it forgets its divine essence. The music of pleasure becomes the prelude to silence, and beyond the horizon, the dark fires of hell already begin to burn. The harmony that once illuminated the triptych is now shattered. The right panel opens like a wound in the cosmos, a vision of ruin, cold and metallic. The divine pink that once symbolized grace has vanished entirely. In its place, a somber blue spreads like corrosion, enveloping every shape and figure in an atmosphere of despair. This is the musical hell, a landscape of agony where the consequences of desire have finally unfolded. What was once a celebration of life has become a theater of torment. Here, Bosch inverts his entire visual language. Symbols that once represented vitality now become instruments of punishment. The hand of God that once united Adam and Eve in the garden is now transfixed by a blade, pinned to a circular blue disc, a chilling image of the divine word, immobilized by materialism. The act of creation has turned against itself. What was meant to elevate the soul now imprisons it. Everywhere, sound becomes suffering. The instruments of joy, harps, drums, flutes, have been twisted into devices of torture. One man is stretched taut like a string across a harp, his body resonating with pain. Another is crushed beneath the hollow curve of a drum, his face contorted in silence. Others are forced to sing grotesque hymns as demons laugh and mock them. Bosch's musical hell is not merely visual, it is auditory. One can almost hear the cacophony, dissonant notes echoing through an endless night. Harmony, once the voice of heaven, has been perverted into chaos. At the center of the composition rises one of the most haunting images in the history of art, the tree man. His vast hollow body, supported by frail wooden legs, shelters the condemned within a tavern built in his belly. His human face, pale, introspective, almost sorrowful, stares directly at us, as if aware of the tragedy he embodies. His torso, pierced and decayed, bears the marks of spiritual rot. Scholars have long believed that this figure is a self-portrait of Bosch himself, a silent witness to the fate he foresaw for humanity. The artist as prophet, burdened with the vision of mankind's fall. Around him, demons dance, soldiers of darkness serving no god but pleasure, turned rancid. To the right, the monstrous bird-headed demon, a grotesque parody of divine judgment, sits enthroned upon a high chair. With one beak he devours the damned, and with his other extremity, he excretes them into a pit of filth. It is the cycle of desire made eternal, consumption and expulsion, pleasure and decay, creation and destruction repeating without end. The once luminous fruits of the central garden have here become seeds of corruption. What was sweet now feeds the inferno. In the far distance, the final transformation unfolds. The river of life that once flowed through paradise and the garden has frozen solid. Souls wander upon its icy surface, lost and disoriented, unable to return to the warmth of spirit. The red of flame and the blue of frost dominate the palette, signifying the two extremes of punishment, fire that burns and ice that numbs. Between them lies only silence, the absolute negation of light. Bosch's hell is not merely a place of physical torment, it is a mirror of the inner world. It is the landscape of the soul that has turned away from the divine, enslaved by its own appetites and illusions. The damned are not punished by God but by their own blindness. Each figure here is trapped within the echo of their former desire, condemned to repeat it endlessly. The musical hell thus becomes the final revelation of the triptych, the soundless symphony of a spirit that has forgotten how to listen to the harmony of heaven. The hidden meaning and the legacy of the work. Beyond its religious morality, the Garden of Earthly Delights is, above all, a meditation on the dual nature of humankind. In Bosch's vision, the divine and the earthly coexist not as opposites, but as forces in perpetual dialogue, each mirroring the other. His triptych is not merely a moral tale, but a psychological map of the human condition. Paradise, the garden, and hell are not distant realms separated by divine decree. They are inner landscapes, states of consciousness that every soul traverses in the course of existence. In the left panel, we are pure and unawakened, souls still in harmony with their source. In the center, we plunge into the seduction of sensation and the illusions of the world, and in the right, we confront the consequences of forgetting our divine essence. Together, these scenes form a mirror of the soul's journey, from unity through fragmentation towards self-knowledge. Bosch suggests that salvation and damnation are not destinations but movements of awareness. Heaven and hell begin within. The esoteric nature of Bosch's language is what gives his art its timeless power. His work fuses Christian symbolism with hermetic, alchemical, and philosophical imagery. The fountain, the tree, the fruit, the animals, all are archetypes of transformation. Beneath their strangeness lies a spiritual grammar, the descent of spirit into matter, and its possible redemption through consciousness. Bosch's message is veiled in allegory because truth, for him, could not be spoken directly. It had to be experienced, contemplated, unveiled in silence. Throughout the centuries, the meaning of the Garden of Earthly Delights has evolved with humanity's own understanding of itself. In the 16th century, it was viewed as a stern moral warning against sin. In the 18th, it became a curious oddity, a grotesque relic of medieval imagination. In the 20th, psychoanalysts and surrealists recognized in it the first visual prophecy of the unconscious mind, an X-ray of our inner chaos. And in the 21st century, it has become a mirror for ecological and spiritual reflection, a vision of a world both sacred and fragile, where every act of creation bears the seed of destruction. Bosch was not merely a painter, he was a visionary, a cartographer of invisible realities. His art transcended the language of his age and anticipated the dreams of the future. The observer's owl, that silent witness hidden in every panel, embodies the consciousness that never sleeps, the inner eye that perceives truth beyond illusion. It is the gaze of the soul itself, watching the eternal dance between light and shadow, ignorance and awakening. The Garden of Earthly Delights endures because it speaks to what is most ancient and most modern within us. It is not simply a painting, it is a revelation in color, a mystical text for those who know how to read with the spirit. Through Bosch's vision, we are reminded that the true paradise is not lost, only forgotten, and that within every descent lies the seed of return. Bosch, prophet of the soul. 5 centuries later, the Garden of Earthly Delights continues to shimmer before us like a mirror of eternity, alive, provocative, and endlessly renewed. It is not merely a masterpiece of art history. It is a living organism of meaning, one that transforms with every gaze that falls upon it. In its strange and luminous vastness, each viewer discovers a fragment of their own soul. Some find beauty, others horror. Some perceive a moral warning, others a hymn to the miracle of existence. Yet all who contemplate it feel the same mysterious recognition. This painting belongs to us, because it speaks the language of the human spirit. Bosch did not paint a dream. He painted truth in the form of vision. His world is not fantasy, but revelation. Within each of us lies a paradise of innocence, a garden of desire, and an inferno of consequence. They coexist in tension, like chords in an unfinished symphony. We are at once the creators and the exiles of our own worlds. Bosch's message is timeless. Redemption is not found in escaping life, but in understanding it. As the triptych closes in silence, we are left not with despair but with awakening. The dark sphere of the earth, once floating in the void on the outer panels, now mirrors our own fragility, and yet within that fragile sphere burns a divine spark, the same light that once shaped creation. Bosch invites us to guard that light, to see with the owl's eye of awareness, to transform the chaos of the world into inner wisdom. Thus ends our journey through this infinite painting, this mystical labyrinth of symbols and visions. If it has awakened something within you, curiosity, wonder, or reflection, then the spirit of Bosch lives on. For the Garden of Earthly Delights is not meant to be seen only once. It is meant to be lived, interpreted, and dreamed again and again across the centuries. Each return reveals a new secret, a new truth, a new reflection of ourselves. Because ultimately, the Garden of Earthly Delights is not about heaven or hell, it is about consciousness. It is the story of humanity learning to see itself. And as long as there are eyes to look and souls to wonder, Bosch's vision will remain alive, prophetic, eternal, and profoundly human.